It was not a red carpet confession or a carefully staged interview. The revelation came quietly, almost unintentionally, wrapped inside a conversation that was never meant to shake Hollywood. Dakota Johnson did not dramatize the moment or frame it like a fairy tale. Yet when she spoke about accepting a proposal from Sam Heughan, the impact was immediate, unsettling, and impossible to ignore. For years, the idea of a connection between Dakota and Sam lived firmly in the realm of speculation. Fans treated it like an inside joke, a piece of wishful thinking that occasionally resurfaced online before fading again. Neither of them ever fed the narrative, and both were known for fiercely guarding their private lives. That silence made the idea feel impossible, until it suddenly wasn't. What shocked people most was not the proposal itself, but Dakota's willingness to explain why she said yes. She did not mention romance in the traditional sense, nor did she lean on clichés about destiny or instant certainty. Instead, she framed her decision as something layered, thoughtful, and deeply personal. It was clear from the beginning that this was not a story built on spectacle. According to Dakota, the proposal did not happen in a glamorous setting. There were no cameras, no audience, no carefully curated moment designed for public consumption. It happened away from Hollywood, in a place chosen specifically because it offered anonymity and quiet. That alone set the tone for everything that followed. She hinted that Sam's approach was not about persuasion, but permission. There was no pressure to respond immediately, no expectation attached to the question itself. The proposal was presented as an invitation rather than a demand, something she could consider without fear of consequences. For someone who had spent years resisting labels and public assumptions, that distinction mattered. Dakota has long been open about her complicated relationship with commitment. In past interviews, she spoke about independence, personal space, and the importance of not losing oneself inside a relationship. Marriage, to her, was never a goal, and certainly not something to be rushed. That history made her decision feel even more unexpected. What began to change her perspective, she explained, was not a single grand gesture, but a pattern of consistency. Sam's presence in her life did not feel performative or strategic. There was no attempt to reshape her identity or fold her into a public narrative. Instead, he allowed her to remain exactly who she was, without negotiation. The first reason she alluded to was emotional safety. Not comfort, not excitement, but safety in the sense of being able to exist without explanation. With Sam, she did not feel watched or evaluated, even when the world was watching. That absence of judgment created space for trust to grow naturally. The second reason was respect for boundaries. Dakota emphasized that Sam never pushed for visibility, never tried to define the relationship for others. In an industry where relationships are often treated as extensions of branding, that restraint felt radical. It allowed their connection to remain personal rather than performative. As she spoke, it became clear that these reasons were not meant to convince anyone else. They were markers of an internal shift, moments where she realized her resistance to commitment was rooted more in fear than principle. Accepting the proposal was not about surrendering independence, but redefining it. What truly unsettled listeners was Dakota's insistence that love was not the main reason. She did not deny it, but she refused to center it. Instead, she described a sense of alignment that went beyond emotion, a feeling that this decision did not require her to compromise her future. That framing challenged everything people expected her to say. By the end of her reflection, she revealed there were 6 reasons in total, each one layered and deeply connected to personal growth. She did not list them outright, choosing instead to let the weight of the number speak for itself. 6 reasons suggested deliberation, not impulse. As the conversation ended, the room felt different. This was not a celebrity engagement story designed to inspire or entertain. It was a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes, the most shocking decisions are the ones made without an audience. And as Dakota stepped away from the topic, one thing became clear: the reasons behind her yes were far more complex than anyone had imagined. When Dakota continued speaking, the conversation shifted from surprise to reflection. She explained that the 6 reasons were never meant to be a checklist, but a gradual realization that unfolded over time. Each reason built on the last, forming a foundation strong enough to challenge beliefs she had carried for years. What mattered most, she said, was that none of them were rooted in pressure or fear. The first reason she described was a sense of emotional safety that did not depend on reassurance. With Sam Heughan, she did not feel the need to perform happiness or explain her moods. Silence was allowed, space was respected, and emotions were not treated as problems to fix. That consistency made her feel grounded in a way she had rarely experienced before. The second reason was trust built through restraint. Dakota noted that Sam never tried to accelerate the relationship or define it publicly. He did not use their connection as a talking point or a shield against speculation. By refusing to shape the narrative for others, he allowed it to remain honest for the 2 people living inside it. Her third reason was more practical and, in many ways, more revealing. She spoke about shared values that extended beyond romance, how both of them viewed work as meaningful but not all-consuming. Their understanding of success did not rely on constant visibility or validation. That alignment reduced friction and removed a layer of tension she had come to expect in relationships. The fourth reason touched on timing, something Dakota admitted she had underestimated in the past. She acknowledged that earlier in her life, even the healthiest relationship would have felt restrictive. This time, she felt ready not because she had changed who she was, but because she had finally stopped running from stillness. The proposal arrived when she no longer felt the urge to protect herself from commitment. The fifth reason was the most emotional. Dakota described a moment when she realized she was not being chosen for who she could become, but for who she already was. There was no expectation of growth in a specific direction, no vision of transformation attached to the commitment. That realization dismantled a fear she had carried quietly for years. The sixth reason, the one she hesitated to explain fully, had nothing to do with romance at all. It was about clarity. Dakota said there came a point when the idea of saying no felt less authentic than saying yes. The decision stopped feeling like a leap and started feeling like alignment, something that required courage but not sacrifice. Throughout her explanation, one theme remained constant. This was not a story about being swept away, but about standing still long enough to recognize truth. Dakota made it clear that accepting the proposal did not erase her independence or redefine her identity. Instead, it affirmed a version of herself she had worked hard to become. What resonated with listeners was the absence of spectacle. There was no promise of a perfect future, no claim that love had solved everything. The reasons she shared were grounded, even understated, and that realism made them feel more powerful. It challenged the assumption that life-changing decisions must be dramatic to be meaningful. As word spread, reactions were mixed. Some fans felt inspired by the honesty, while others struggled to reconcile the story with their own expectations. Yet even critics acknowledged that this was not a manufactured narrative designed for approval. It was a personal account offered without apology. By the end of her reflection, Dakota returned to one simple point. Accepting the proposal was not about closing doors, but choosing one deliberately. She did not frame it as a final destination, only as a step she felt ready to take. And in that measured certainty, she left behind a message that lingered far longer than the shock of the headline.